It's over. It's all over. UConn is the national champions. The Huskies have climbed to the top of the NCAA mountain.
The voice of sports in our state.
Gives to Dixon to the left. Touchdown! Touchdown, Connecticut!
The soundtrack to so much history.
The Huskies are the top dogs in April. UConn wins the national championship.
From Stanford to Stafford to Salisbury to Stonington, the trusted voice of Jody Ambrosio, the kid from the south end of Hartford, has brought to every corner of Connecticut some of the most memorable moments we've shared as fans.
This Texas two-step is a big dance that will last forever. UConn is the national champions.
A graduate of South Catholic High School who moved to Old Saybrook, Joe D first hit the airwaves in 1978.
Like it was yesterday. It was WLIS in Old Saybrook. It was a 500-watt radio station, and I had been working in a grocery store. The only way I thought I'd get in the Hall of Fame was the Bag Boy Hall of Fame. But my late father ran into the GM, John Powers, and said, hey, my son, I was 25 at the time, my son would like to get in the radio. John was looking for a weekend disc jockey, so I went in, and my first broadcast was on a Saturday afternoon, 4:30 to 8:15, because we were only a daytimer. And I remember my friends from South Catholic who I played softball with up in Hartford, a bunch of them went to Gillette Castle so they could hear the first show, and of course they brought hot dogs and adult beverages. My first broadcast was high school soccer, which was strange because we didn't have soccer in South. When I moved to Old Saybrook full-time in 71, I learned the game, and my first broadcast was an Old Saybrook Granby State Tournament game in 1978, and then a couple weeks later on Thanksgiving Day, I did my first football game. I did color because the guy who had done color, Ray Markham, had left to take a job up in Middletown. So Tim Kelly, who I'm delighted is here tonight, came up from New Jersey for the occasion, and I did the East Lyme Waterford game. Winner got a spot in the Class M championship game. East Lyme won big. And what I remember most about the game was the place was packed, and I had to leave in the fourth quarter because I had to go back and do my disc jockey show. WLIS was awesome. I got to do so much there. Mike Rice, who later became part of the management, had a good sense of humor to make me management, which I'll never understand. I worked with great people. I worked with great broadcasters. The late Tom Sullivan, who I called the striker, did soccer and some basketball with me. And Phil House, who was a friend from South, did basketball. Pete Zanardi, great rider, did basketball. Steve Taft and Chris Wallach. I worked with terrific people.
In the mid-1980s, Joe D moved on to become the sports director of WPOP in Hartford, getting his first chance to call college basketball for a program on the rise in stores.
To get to do the games as Marty Glickman's backup in 1984-85 was incredible. He taught me so much. And then, I was lucky to hitch my wagon to Jim Calhoun the first 2 years that Jim was coach. We taped his coach's show for TV at Jorgensen Auditorium, Calhoun's Court. And then when the opening came up in 92 and I was ready to leave WPOP, and Arnold Dean hired me to work at TIC, I feel very blessed. I mean, I was there during the good times. I was lucky. I was at UConn at the right time, and I dealt with great coaches and even more importantly, some incredible athletes who turned into outstanding men and women.
He also became a fixture on TV as a sports anchor and reporter for NBC Connecticut for 17 years and Fox 61 for 3 years, often providing coverage of high school sports. But it was as radio voice of the UConn Huskies for 26 years on WTIC where he brought to life some of this state's most epic sports moments.
Here's Walker with 4, stops, moves left, steps back, the jumper, it's good! At the buzzer, and Kemba Walker has done it again! The Huskies race out of the field, and UConn has beaten Notre Dame in South Bend.
I was broadcasting for the UConn fans for 26 years. You're a fan, and when Kemba hit the step back, or Rip hit the hoop against Washington, or they won the national championship, or Bird at the buzzer against Notre Dame, or Andre Dixon ran into the end zone at Notre Dame. I think that's important when you're doing a game for a team. You don't have to root. We never used us. I abhor that. But people know who you hope win the game because it makes for a better broadcast. With Wayne Norman, Bob Joyce, Kevin Nathan, who's also here tonight, everybody who I worked with. I'm kind of proud. I gave Megan Pattison her start. making Kumo. I gave Donnie Marshall a start, gave Carol Walters her start. It's kind of cool stuff.
Now, that kid from the heart of Connecticut returns to his roots, calling high school football in his new role at WJMJ Radio, just as he did all those years ago at Dillon Stadium.
Now, in the stands at South Catholic, I probably did play-by-play in my head. I certainly did play-by-play when I was at Charter Oaks and Knights games here at Dillon Stadium in the 60s, in the early 70s. I was excited. I mean, I put as much prep into these games as I did the UConn games, because you don't want to short-circuit the kids, the coaches, or the people who are home listening. Marty taught me one thing. You always imagine you're broadcasting to one thing. You have one person who's listening. That's the person you want to broadcast for. And so many people who were influential, Joe Riley and Gene Riley and Gary Palladino from my days in South. Obviously Lenny Cordo, who was 3 years older than me and bullied me in South, and was pretty ugly. And then coaches that I worked with along the way on the shoreline and in different places. And to be going in with this class this year, 8 coaches who have spent 263 years helping high school girls and boys. It's just an honor, especially for somebody who's been here his entire life.